Alrighty, it's time for an update about our conscious media movement campaign, how that's going, how your support is taking us sort of to the next level so far. Really, we promised we were going to provide updates, so this is one of the first ones that we're going to provide that's going to give you an insight into how things are going so far, where conscious media is headed, and how collective evolution is looking, and ultimately how you're making that impact. So I decided to break this down into sort of like why we did this campaign so people can understand a little bit further, the amount of subscribers we have so far and what impact that's making. And some of like the immediate sort of increases or different, I guess, positives that we've seen so far since running this campaign, which is really cool to talk about. And then I wanted to quickly get into some of the overall goals because that involves everybody that's part of this campaign and that's part of conscious media in general. So first off, why we did this. Now, this question came up a little bit because primarily why we wanted to do this campaign and why we wanted to put so much transparency out there was because a lot of people didn't quite realize what goes on behind the scenes at CE, what it takes to run this, and in general, what it takes to run a multi-personed team that's producing news and media and the costs that are behind it. Because of the way the internet works, the way Facebook works, the way YouTube works, it can sometimes appear like, oh, hey, yeah, someone just made a video. Someone just wrote an article on their spare time. This is not what happens. There are a lot of websites in the alternative media space that sometimes just copy paste stuff, or they sometimes just, write a quick little article and they put it out there. And that does happen. But here at CE, we have at the moment, I mean, at one point we had 14 staff, but at the moment we have 9 staff. We work, pretty much full time, even though we're on part-time hours, so we're not getting paid the full-time hours that we're doing. And we essentially are working our asses off, to be quite clear, to produce the amount of content that we produce. The reality of the situation is to produce the videos, to produce the podcasts, to produce the amount of articles we're producing every day, to maintain the different social media platforms, to be able to actually reach and keep in touch and talk with people, as well as just handling all the emails, all the comments, all the inquiries, and everything that goes along with reaching millions of people every single month. It becomes a really, really, intensive process. Not to mention there's a lot of investigation, there's a lot of research, there's a lot of reading and stuff that has to go along with what we're doing. And, even recording this video after it, there's quite a bit of editing that has to go into it, and then putting that, onto YouTube, onto Facebook, on all these platforms. It takes a lot of time. And so we have a lot of people. I mean, at the moment, we don't have a ton, but we have, still a good chunk of people that we have to pay and that we have to make things, work to move forward. So like we've put in our transparency, this costs us usually a little over $500,000 a year to do. And then that sometimes comes as a shock to people. They don't realize that, wow, that's cost you over $500,000 to do this work with CE. Yes, if you want quality work as best as we can, then it costs that much. Most, people love places like The Intercept, love places like The Guardian. They're operating off of, The Intercept, I think, revealed they're operating off of something like $45 million a year. The Guardian probably well over $100 million a year. It's very, very, very expensive to do media and to do it properly. And so what we did was, we're looking at the situation. Censorship is starting to become an issue. We don't have as much funding. We don't have the ability to reach people as easily. Not only that, but ad networks, which is how we were funding collective evolution in the past, started to actually just diminish in their performance. Part of it was, they were more sensitive about what content and what topics they would put advertising on. So you saw YouTube strip advertising away from a lot of videos. We do have that problem sometimes. And then even AdSense, sometimes they're not, putting the same advertisements that they were in the past that were high paying on our website. So we've actually seen a 40% reduction over last year in actual ad performance. So in that case, it doesn't matter if we're still getting a ton of views. Either way, we're 40% less profitable because we're not able to get the same ads. And that's nothing we have control over. There's really nothing we can do about that except for not do the work that we do, which is not why we're here. So and we start to look at it, if our main form of funding is really these advertising networks or being able to drive traffic, sometimes people will say, hey, it's okay, you can leave ads up because I don't mind, I just look past it. And it's like, well, first of all, that doesn't fund our work. And secondly, it's like, whether the ads are there or not, it's not really bringing in the money that we require because there's been such a decrease. So we know advertising on our website is not going to be what's going to fuel us into the future. So what we decided to do was we looked at The Intercept, we looked at The Guardian, and we said, okay, how are they running their work? How are they doing what they're doing? So there are some private donors and there's stuff like that. Even Democracy Now! Will operate that where they have private donors, but ultimately, every single one of those organizations is funded by their user base and by their audience. The Guardian, for example, has well over 1 million people that are consistently putting in little bits of money here and there to say, hey, yeah, I want to support the journalism, I want to keep this going. On the flip side, a lot of other alternative or mainstream media outlets are saying, okay, you can get like, 3-4 articles a month, 5 articles a month, and beyond that, here's the cost. And it's usually something like $20 or $25 a month, which we thought was just not really aligned with what we wanted to do. One, we didn't want people have to pay, 20 to 25 bucks to read our content, to get access to our podcast, to see our videos. Not only that, but we wanted to do something where the information could spread as much as it possibly could. And if we're putting up paywalls, the information is not going to spread because we do want to reach a lot of people, but we understand that, the way The Guardian and the way The Intercept are doing it and the amount of subscribers they have, which is making their whole operation run properly, is how things are going to move forward. It's a collective of people coming together saying, yes, I support this. Yes, I want to make this happen. And we need to get this information out there. So we looked at their models, we looked at what they were doing, and we said, let's do something very, very similar. So we spent a lot of time putting together a bunch of transparency stuff, which you'll see in either the first comment or in the description. You'll see in the link that we have. It's explorers.collective-evolution.com/CMM. And that shows you our entire campaign page, and the FAQ at the bottom sort of answers any questions about what this thing's about, what we're doing, why we're asking for money, and where it goes ultimately, right? So we decided to take that route. And so far, it actually has been pretty good. I mean, we've been running it a little over a month, and thus far we have 2,314 subscribers. So when we initially look at that, we say, well, hold on a second, you have a giant mailing list, you have a whole bunch of subscribers on Facebook. Why is it only a small percentage of that? I mean, this number is really less than 1% of our entire audience. Well, there's a number of things for that, right? We still are getting used to the idea that, hey, we're asking for support here and we're trying to make this happen. So we believe we're only really scratching the surface with this particular number, and that there still are a lot of people who, as they even know and as they hear about this campaign, will want to get on board supporting conscious media, making sure the truth is getting out there, and ultimately making sure that neutrality and consciousness is brought into what's going on in our world, so that we can view what's happening in our world from a standpoint where we're not getting dramatic and over, angry and pissed off and just getting stuck in that state, which still fuels the system. But instead, we're consuming media that's allowing us to actually go, okay, what does this mean for me? What does this mean for the planet? How can I pull my own fueling, my own anger, my own whatever it may be, out of these situations and actually be part of the solution to shifting our consciousness, to ultimately changing our world? That's what our media is designed to do, and that's what we've been doing for the past 10 years. So far, yes, it is. So far, we got a small number, but this number is already making an impact. I mean, combined, when you look at what most people have been contributing, because the campaign, we sort of suggest $3 a month. This number works out to, after fees and all that sort of stuff, about $5,500 a month. Now, that's not huge. It's not like suddenly like the game changer in our entire business or anything like that. Once again, we're running off of about a budget of about $500,000 a month at the moment. Usually that's quite a bit higher, but this is what we can afford right now. So this $5,500 a month is starting to move the process. I mean, we've only been doing this for a little bit, but it's starting to fuel things a little further. Our immediate goal is we need to get our staff back full-time, paid properly, so that we can continue doing this work and ultimately put in the hours to make sure it works. Beyond that, the next step, very, very next step, is hire an editor again. We had an editor in the past for a long time, and it was a saving grace. It was huge. We were able to have someone, triple check ultimately what it comes down to, our work, because what we do now is we write it, we edit it, and then we have another journalist read it over to make sure that it's kind of good. But because we're over saturated with work and we got so much stuff going on, this process produces some challenges. So you've probably noticed in our work, we'll have a spelling mistake here and there. We'll have like a word out of place or something like that, because we're just doing our best. If you came into our office and you saw what was going on, you'd be like, holy crap, there's like 8 people here that are working this hard to make this much content. It's pretty intense, but ultimately, we're going to miss a few things. And so we appreciate your patience and, you know, sending us emails saying, hey, here's a little error that I found. We catch that, we go and we change it right away. So it makes a big difference. But ultimately, we want to get to a point where we can hire an editor again. And that's one of our immediate goals. So ultimately, this is starting to have an impact. We're starting to be able to move towards bringing our staff back full time. We probably, if we doubled our subscriber base, you know, for example, over the next couple of weeks to a month, we would be able to bring everybody back full time, no problem. We're good to go, right? Because again, this campaign is designed to support the whole journalism aspect of everything that we do at CE. You know, our podcasts, our research, everything like that, right? This is how we're going to make it sustainable into the future. And the reality is most outlets are having this issue of not having enough funding. The difference is there's a lot of different ways that these outlets are either, you know, making big corporate deals to bring in a ton of corporate money, but that obviously changes the voice and what you're allowed to say. So we're doing this in a way that keeps the voice authentic and that allows us to say what we need to do, and that ultimately brings the collective together to make a collective impact here. So one of the big positives that has happened that we've noticed since we did this campaign, which is really fascinating, is we've had a 30% increase in our traffic literally since the first week that we launched this campaign. Now, this is really interesting because we're in a time where traffic for most people is actually diminishing because Facebook continues to pull away the reach. So all of a sudden, we're now seeing a traffic increase. One, I believe this is because that, you know, we're having more engaged people that are excited about what we're doing and that are starting to say, hey, you know what, yeah, I am a stakeholder in this. Because by donating, by supporting what we're doing, you become a stakeholder in it. You're saying, my energy is directly tied to what's happening here and I believe in this. And not only does that help the collective energy of the process and you actually see it start to rise, which is amazing. Nobody expected this on our team, that we'd have a 30% increase in traffic. But at the same time, people are realizing, yeah, you know, I'm now going to go beyond the censorship of Facebook, and I'm going to take this content and I'm going to share it ourselves, because we realize the power is in us as numbers, right? The more we get engaged and say, hey, I'm going to take this content and go share it, regardless of what Facebook says or regardless of what Twitter says, like, don't worry about them. They're going to play their games and that's okay. We can still use those platforms, still share and do whatever we need to do on them, but we don't have to get upset at them and be like, they're ruining everything and la-da-da-da-da, because that only just fuels exactly what they want out of us, which is anger, because in anger, we can't change anything. So it's amazing to see how that has happened. That's one huge plus already. The other thing is we've been able to make our first payment on our mobile app platform. So we've been developing a mobile app for a little while. And the whole idea and the reason why we wanted to do this is we recognize, you know, one of the barriers that's happening right now is we can't reach people because Facebook is changing, and, you know, Twitter and YouTube and all these different places are starting to crack down on a lot of stuff that is dissenting and that is a different perspective on things. So we said, okay, well, we can't wait for, you know, something to change. We need to kind of be proactive here. So we decided to develop a mobile app, which is the majority of people, as they're looking at our content, they're doing it on their cell phones or on their tablets. So us having a mobile app is a great way to bring the content directly to people all the time. So it keeps the reach and it keeps everything flowing. Now, what this app is ultimately going to do is it's going to safeguard us if Facebook decides to just one day delete us and say, hey, you're gone, see you later. Right? Now, of course, you could still go to the website and that's a great thing, but this mobile app just brings everything into one place, which is ultimately why we've decided to design it. So some people have been saying, oh, we don't really need an app. It's okay. You know, don't worry about it. Trust me, in the realm of where this is going, we're going to need a mobile app. So the first payment we made on that was $12,000. We've posted the invoice on the actual page, so you can go and check that out. So part of the money that we've generated over the past little bit through this campaign has gone into that as well, which is obviously making a big difference in securing our future, which is ultimately what this is about. And then it gets us into overall goals. So some of the things, like we ask, well, what else are you trying to do? Are we literally just supporting, what we're doing? Well, yeah, from a journalism perspective, obviously having conscious journalism that, gets into the areas that the mainstream's not going to cover, that brings stories that are important for us to understand, that breaks down some of the conditioning and the programming and the sort of the faith in the system that we really shouldn't have, because the system is lying to us in a number of different ways, but we just haven't fully seen that yet. So we need to continue to produce that information to allow people to see, hey, you know what, this isn't what we thought it was. Cool. All right, what do we do now, right? So we need to continue producing this information. We need to continue doing it in a way that is conscious, meaning it allows us to process the feelings, the emotion, the anger, all the different stuff that sometimes comes up that still fuels the system. We feel if we have this aggressive bias journalism, which we don't have, then what it would do is it would just continue giving permission to people to say, like what's happening with the migrant caravan. The amount of people who are like so angry at this situation, calling these people all these different names and all this different stuff, or attacking the administration, all this sort of, no one's looking at the truth of the situation. And that's why we produced the migrant caravan video, because that particular thing is being used as a political ploy to divide people, keep them really angry, and keep them really, really locked in their emotions. When we are locked in our emotions, we cannot change a situation, period. We continue repeating the same cycle over and over of being disconnected, of being, attacking, fighting, lower levels of consciousness, 3D levels of consciousness when we're locked in our emotions, right? So we got to be looking at media that isn't pushing us into emotions, but is actually bringing us out of it and saying, oh, there's the big picture. There's the higher perspective. I see what's going on. Now I know how I can move forward, right? And again, that's what we're doing. So we need to continue that. And that's a big part of what we're funding here. Beyond that, like I said, our goals are we want to bring the staff back full-time. We want to get an editor going. We want to remove ads from our website entirely. This is like one of our number one goals here, because we don't want to be working with these ad exchanges anymore for a number of different reasons. And ultimately, we want to bring the best possible experience to you guys. So we've, over the years, unlike a lot of different platforms out there, you could probably recognize if you start going and playing around with different platforms, we've kept the user experience on our website as good as we possibly can by putting literally limited to no advertising. Compared to a lot of other websites where advertisings are flying everywhere, even most mainstream websites like HuffPost and Forbes and all these different ones, where it's like there's literally ads everywhere. We've always committed to, and literally we've given up to $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month when things were great in the past, just to not run this type of advertising, because we didn't believe in it and we wanted to maintain the user experience. So we want to get rid of ads completely. That's a big goal for us. The other big thing is we want to create an investigative team that's specifically a set of 3 to 4 individuals in our office that are focused entirely on deep dive investigations. One of the biggest challenges that we've recognized in this space is that a lot of information comes forward and it's great, but sometimes there's a lot of sort of fickle information. There's not a lot of backing to it. There hasn't quite been enough deep dive research to really explore it and to really understand. And what this creates is this massive open door for information to be put out there and the mainstream to look at it and go, well, this is really weak and this is really not backed up and this is really like meh. And so what happens is it just gets torn apart. Right? So we've said, why don't we bring really solid quality deep dive investigation into this space so that we can see very clearly, when it comes to these 57,000 indictments, is that a legitimate story? How can we really validate all that? I know people are pointing to the fact that, it's all on the database. I've looked through the database and I can tell you, I have a lot of questions about that particular story. I think there is legitimacy to it, but I don't think it's quite what we're being told. So I do think there needs to be a lot of time spent on this kind of stuff. Likewise, with many, many other stories that are out there that will make a big impact on people, we want to be able to truly get in there and do a deep investigation, because those investigations, that's things like the Snowden story. Remember when that came out? That is the type of investigative deep dive journalism that takes a lot of time, that impacts the world in a way that is so dramatic that it allows things to begin to change, right? And if we don't get that flowing in this space, then I just feel like we're not doing it the service that it truly, truly needs. Beyond that, we want to do things like run conferences, and we want to, be able to have events where we can all gather, once a year and do some, really cool exploring together and talking about things and having some great guests and do all that sort of stuff. That's been on our agenda for quite a few years, but the more funding and support that we get, the more we're able to kind of bring these things together, which everybody gets involved in. And one of the other big things that we really want to do is start a citizen journalism platform where we can actually come together as a collective, as stakeholders in this campaign and say, what stories do we got? What evidence do we got? Let's collaborate our research and bring it together. So we create a platform that says, boom, here's the topic, right? And then everybody goes, okay, here's this piece, here's that piece. I found this over here. I found this over here. And we bring it together in a way that suddenly becomes a crowdsourced investigative story where then our team can take it and go, okay, awesome. We have all these different things. Where did you get this from? How did you find this? And we can pull this together and we can actually make stories where we get bits from all around the world, because so many of us are from all these different places, and we can crowdfund these incredible stories and do it a lot faster, so we don't have to get on planes and fly places all the time, so that we don't have to just rely on 4 people investigating, but perhaps 20, 25, 30 that are interested in a specific topic, right? And then that gets us all involved in this process. Collective evolution is about the collective, and we've always wanted to bring more people into the process. The challenge is it is very, time consuming to do something like that, to not only have a platform, but to actually put the energy into making sure that it flows properly and that the story is getting done and that things are happening. That takes a lot of time. It's easy to say the idea, but it's really difficult to actually pull it off because you got to have the manpower to do it. So that is one of the things, one of the goals that we have in this campaign, the more support that we get to be able to actually start doing. So as you'll see on the actual page, we've broken this campaign down into multiple phases. Be sure to read it, understand what we're looking to do, what we're looking to make happen. And if you believe in what we're doing and you think that this is important, by all means, become a supporter. There's multiple different options of how you can support, whether you want to do one-time donations, monthly donations, whether you want to do $3, $10, $25, whatever it is that you feel. All the options are on the page. Again, this is how we're securing our future. This is how we're bringing conscious media to the next level. We want to thank everybody who has brought in their hearts and their souls into supporting us so far. Even those who haven't thrown in finances, thank you for sharing our content, for doing the internal work to continue to work through the processes of what we're shifting and going through and changing here, and for just ultimately reading and being part of it all. This is hugely, hugely important. But if you can support and help us bring things to the next level, by all means, we're greatly appreciative of it, because this is truly how we're going to make sure collective evolution not only thrives and moves forward and continues to have these incredible traffic and reach increases, bigger impact, but also it's how we're going to, just secure the future of conscious media in general. So thank you. Check out the page and we'll catch you next time. That's it. That's all. Hey YouTube, thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and share a comment if you have anything to say. You can also subscribe to our channel just above my head up here so you can get more videos like this. Collective Evolution stays alive in this era of massive censorship through support from viewers like you. Up in the right-hand corner of the screen, you can join our Conscious Media Movement campaign, which allows you to become a monthly supporter and help keep conscious media and collective evolution alive. Thanks and peace.